Good morning, beautiful being. It's great to see you. Standing here in New Zealand on our Anzac Day remembrance. Yesterday was Anzac Day, and it's a big day in New Zealand because of what happened on this day many years ago now in the First World War, where a lot of people died fighting for freedom. So I just want to acknowledge that, not because I personally feel any strongness about that, but because it's an important day in New Zealand, and I just felt to mention it. And I want to show you the day. I mean, you can see it behind me, so now let's see it in front of me. Here is the day, and the clouds, as always, are just glorious. It's just beautiful here. And you can hear it's very quiet, and because it's a holiday, people are going about their business and doing things. And there's no wind. Look at the cabbage tree. The cabbage tree, by the way, is that thing with big sort of poofs of leaves up there. It's actually a kind of lily, believe it or not. It's related to lilies, but it's called cabbage tree, and that's because sprout in the middle of those poofs of long leaves, if you cook it up, tastes a bit like cabbage. And the Māori, the indigenous people of the country, used to really like doing that, but of course it's not so good for the tree. Good morning, Sang Marie. It's great to see you. It's good to be out here today. There's not many flowers because it's that time of year, but we have a few of this faithful purple campanula that always has flowers on somewhere, and it's kind of beautiful because there's that lovely green fern foliage and the cribwall there and different things growing in it, and weeds. These are weeds. But even they, aren't they gorgeous? It's a native euphorbia, I think is the word, otherwise known as milkweed. And it grows everywhere, but really, we've never stopped to look at it. Look at the flowers. And look at the beautiful green. I mean, the little flowers are tiny, tiny, those little spots in the middle of everything. And this is another thing. It's got these little purple flowers, and I pull it out, but it's so beautiful. So it's time to appreciate the weeds. Welcome home to Mansakonko, Sang Marie. That must be really good. And we have this fern. This is a tree fern. Can't see yet, but it's got a trunk there, and in there somewhere. Yeah, there you go. Now you can see it. And that is going to get transplanted soon, and it's going to go to a new home, because I don't want a big tree fern. But you can see there's a big tree fern up there in the centre of the screen. I don't want that in the middle of my garden. So things just arrived. Good morning, Abigail. On the wind, of course. And look, there's a few, can't really see, I'll take you up there. There's a few daisies coming back on the yellow daisy plant. And very early, there are flowers on the New Zealand native kowhai. It's a short one. That's a dwarf kowhai. Get you a bit closer. But there you can see the yellow flowers, so they'll brighten the garden at a time when not much else is happening. And here there are yellow daisies as well, but I really have to prune this bush. I just didn't get around to it. I've had conflicting priorities and had to make choices. So here we are up the back. More, good morning, beautiful. And see, there's another kowhai which is just coming into bud, and the old flowers coming out. So yeah, it's the autumn show is starting up, the autumn-winter show. And these are all the natives. And look at this, the kowhai get absolutely chewed. And you think, where are all the leaves? You can't see them, it's too early, but there are these caterpillars of a moth that, you know, it goes with this plant and it eats all the leaves and then makes moths, and that's how the cycle goes round. I can't find any of the grubs, or I'd show you, because they're quite attractive. But that's what happens. This is what it's supposed to look like, and then all the leaves get eaten. But that's all right. So it's so quiet. This is one of our native flax bushes, and you can see those leaves. They will just move in the wind, but they're not moving now. There's absolutely no wind up here, which is not to be taken for granted, because people sort of say, oh, you know, the wind is always blowing in Wellington, but there's proof that it's not. And I'm very fond of Wellington in autumn precisely because you get these beautiful days. I'll just show you the sky quickly. There's beautiful days where it looks like this, and it's quiet. So it's a beautiful, beautiful weather for Anzac Day, and I'm going to get out of the sun because I'm not wearing a brimmed hat and I don't like squinting. So today I'm picking up on a comment that one of you made, and it was a while back now, And the comment was, oh, I just feel so tired all the time. It's emotionally draining feeling the way that I feel all the time. And that's absolutely true. It really is absolutely true. It is draining to feel bad. Now, why is that? Why is it, you have a bad experience and then you feel physically tired? Well, the reason why I want to explain this is because so often you have a bad experience and the feelings that you are having because of it are absolutely justified. They're totally, absolutely justified. You've got every reason to feel angry at the person, or every reason to feel hurt or lost or, grief or angry or resentful, whatever it is, totally justified to feel like shit. But the problem with feeling like shit is that it has direct and ongoing, while you're feeling bad, you're having a physical effect on your body. Justified or not, it doesn't matter. So let's unpack how that works, just in case this is new to you, because it was new to me. First time I started to learn. Small conclusion. Good morning, Sanchia. It's great to see you. I had a little hump in the internet in case anybody wondered why I'm talking about camels all of a sudden. So what happens when you have an experience, and that experience is negative? We're talking about negative emotions today. Is your brain perks up, pays attention, goes, oh, this is different, not very nice, I don't feel good about this. When you have a reaction inside of yourself, your brain notices and it pays attention to what's going on out there, takes snapshot, a very detailed snapshot, and stores it away for future reference as something to avoid. And in the process of doing that, storing it away for future reference means literally making new neurological connections in your brain in real time to represent what you've experienced. That's what happens. So you have an experience and the brain says, I better store this. Now, when it's storing it and it's making those neurological connections, there are neurotransmitters involved in making those connections. And the neurotransmitters are specific to the frequency of the thought that you're thinking. So the frequency of grief is different from the frequency of anger, which is different from the frequency of sadness, which is different from the frequency of frustration, which is different from the frequency of anger, which is different from the frequency of happiness, which is different from the frequency of love, which is different from the frequency of joy. You get the idea. Every single kind of emotional expression and experience that we can have has a frequency, and the brain chooses the neurotransmitters that it uses to make those new neurological connections that go with the memory that you're forming because of the experience you're having, based upon the frequency of the emotion. This was just a real wow to me when I understood it. Because the neurons, they have at the place where they're sending the information, God, I hope I got this right. Yeah, where they're sending, there are these little pods that contain the neurotransmitters, and there's many different neurotransmitters. And then, of course, you can have combinations, right? It's like literally mixing up a batch of chemicals to represent your emotional state, because it's frequency. And, it's very, very fine, but whatever the frequency is, you get the neurochemistry to match, and that's what's used to form those synaptic connections. And then what happens when those neurotransmitters have been chosen and they're used to make those synaptic connections is then those neurotransmitters speak to another part of your brain, which is the hypothalamus, and the hypothalamus sends instructions to the pituitary that says, send signals down to the body, from the brain to the body, send chemical and also electromagnetic signals, although I'm not sure that the pituitary does that. There's a gap in my knowledge there. Because the electromagnetic signals are kind of quantum and they're very, very fast, or they're instant. There's no delay in those. The chemistry takes a little time. But it sends the signal chemically to the body to say, okay, here's the chemistry, here's the thought, now feel exactly the way that I was just thinking, please. Body, have the feeling that goes with this thought. Remember, it's connected by the frequency of the thought. That's how it works. So, okay, so you have the experience, you have the thought, you have the neurotransmitters, you have the neuropeptides which are whipped up in your pituitary gland, and then you have the hormonal and autonomic expressions in your body that give you the emotional experience. That is how it works. But then, because your brain is spying out on your body all the time as well, because there's communication two ways, the brain says, oh, the body is now feeling afraid. By association, it says, what other fearful thoughts have I got that go with this? Because if there's something out there that I need to be afraid of, I need to look at other things that I might need to be afraid of as well, because that gives me the best chance to survive. Maybe there really is something terribly scary out there that I need to run away from or fight or freeze to hide from it. And so it's going to naturally recruit other things that are on the same frequency. And what happens then is you fire up that old thought and you pour the neurochemistry that goes with that thought. So now you've got two neural nets that you fired with the same chemistry, and now you're feeling twice as much fear chemistry as you were before. And it ends up being this cyclic thing where you're thinking and feeling and feeling and thinking, and before you know it, your body is actually telling you how to think. And you just think, man, I'm in a funk today. You know, this one thing happened, and it's 3 hours later, and I still feel like shit. That's how it works. And meanwhile, those stressful chemicals are having an instant and not very positive effect on you at a cellular level from moment to moment to moment to moment to moment as you're thinking and feeling those thoughts and feelings. So, coming back to the beginning of the discussion, if you understand that this is what is going on when you are feeling something bad, that it is physically hurting you. And that is a fact, because all organisms in nature are designed to experience stress for a short period of time. You know, the gazelle needs stress hormones to run away from the lion. And when the gazelle is doing that, it's fine that the gazelle's digestive system is shut down and the brain is not thinking, it's not relaxing, it's not thinking about mating and making a new gazelle or eating or anything. It's just entirely focused on getting to safety. That's fine. But if the gazelle escapes the lion, in fact, if it's a gazelle, it's probably a cheetah because gazelles are a bit fast for lions, then 15 minutes later, it's back to normal. It's interested now in eating and procreating and resting and healing up if it's had any injuries. That's just what it's doing, and that's appropriate. But because as humans we are capable of thinking about our co-worker in the next cubicle that hurt us or is scary or that we resent or whatever it is for the entire day, that means that for the entire day your digestive system is shut down. It's not going to digest food properly. Morning, Jen! Morning, beautiful people! Your brain is not going to think so well. So you're sitting in your cubicle at work, to use it's a well-worn example, but it's true. You're sitting in your cubicle at work. The person in the cubicle next to you is somebody that you hate. You've got a challenging problem in front of you that you're trying to solve, and you can't think because you just want to wring their neck. The rational thinking creative brain is not online. Kylie, it's you, honey! Yay! Rational thinking brain is not online when you're in survival. So not only is your body is shut down because all it wants to do is run, fight or hide. That's it. And so your brain's not thinking, because when you're in stress, blood flow to the front of the brain where thinking and working things out happens is shut down. Everything's in the hindbrain, the instinctual brain, which only wants to run, fight or hide. So instead of finding a solution for the crap you have with your co-worker and the problem that you have in front of you, you just feel angry and bottled up and resentful and nothing's working. Now, independent of whether you are justified to feel all that anger at your co-worker or resentment or fear or sadness or whatever it is it loving to you to stay in that feeling? And if you realise that as you keep pouring this stuff into your body, and when the immune system goes into overdrive, when the body goes into survival, the immune system dials up briefly, and if you stay there, it goes down. Your immunity drops. It doesn't take very long. And if you stay in that state, you are suppressing your immunity. You are shutting down your digestion, so your body can't break down food. It's not getting the nutrients that it needs. It's getting, well-digested fear or stress or whatever it is. It's not loving to you to stay in that state of being. So therefore, the only thing that is good about a negative emotion is how quickly you can get out of that state, how quickly you can break its momentum and do something else, feel something else, even if it's just to move yourself a little bit towards neutral, because some things are immense. And some things we've been firing and wiring and thinking and feeling over and over and over and over again so much for so long that it's become who we think we are, and we don't even know how to think or feel differently. It's so hardwired in us to feel the way we feel that we think this is just how life is, and you want me to feel something different? Are you mad? I can't do that. I don't know how. And that was me when I first started trying to do this. It's like, what? You want me to think differently? I mean, think differently, yes, but you want me to feel differently? How can you want me to, how is that possible when there's and I could reel off the reasons in my life why I felt the way I felt. And we can all do that. You got 1,000 reasons to keep feeling the way you feel. But if you understand that feeling the way you feel, whatever the reason, justified or not, is just not good for you, it's not loving to you, then at some point you're going to have to say, you did that today and you took your attention off it, you stopped firing it. Morag, that's great, well done. How much do you love yourself? Hurry here, it's lovely to see you. This is the choice that we make. This is the choice that we make from moment to moment to moment. And the more hardwired and wall to wall, and this is just how I feel all the time, and I have this condition, I have this history, I have whatever it is, the easier it is to say that's the reason why I can't feel differently. Because it's really, you have that original experience, or you have the experience, and then you have another one, and then you have another one, and then you have another one, and you're trapped and you can't get away, or whatever it is. All of that story that you tell yourself continues to fire and wire the resonance of that experience and continue to make it real to you. And it's all very true, and it's completely justified for many of us. But it's not loving to you to continue to do that. So, I'm not talking about how we get out of it, although I see I've got 3 minutes to do it, so maybe I should talk a little bit about how we get out of it, because I think I've explained the problem quite well now. I hope so. To get out of it, to break ourselves out of however long that emotional state is that's been going on, you really have to do two things. The first thing is like you did, Morag. You got your attention off it. You thought, oh my God, I feel like shit. What can I do to stop putting my attention into this thing? Because we've all had the thing where the mind just goes round and round and round and round and round and round, and you're just thinking the same cycle of thoughts and feeling worse and worse and worse. It's like a spiral. It just gets bigger and bigger and deeper. And you got to actually be aware enough to notice that. You got to notice that you're feeling shit, and you got to have the idea that you can change it. And once you've noticed it and decided that you're going to attempt to change it, and by the way, just doing that is a victory, you then have to think, okay, I've got to get my attention off this. What do I want to put my attention on instead? Now, if you're on the hop and music does it for you, or looking out the window at something that's lovely and putting your attention on it, like that does it for you, that's awesome. For me, I like to very consciously now, because this is the protocol that works for me, to think, okay, I recognize this feeling. I recognize this as a self. This is a me that I'm used to being. I want to get used to being somebody different. Who is that other self? How do I feel when I feel whole, when I feel healthy, when I never even think about the fact that there's that thing that used to be going on in my body and it's just so in the past, it's no longer me, it's no longer a thing. I don't care because it doesn't exist anymore. Who am I and how does it feel when I am like that? And the first few times I ask that kind of question of myself, I can be like, well, shit, I don't know. But the more I keep turning it around, like looking at a rock, you know, a slab of stone that you're going to carve a sculpture, and you think, well, what's inside this, and how could I create it, and, you know, what's the shape here? It's a bit like that. You start with a blank unknown, and you actually have to work out who you want to be. Mike, it's you! Good morning! And when I start to get to know that self that I want to be, and it takes me time. I do not do it in an instant. Some people, they just know immediately. It's taken me a long time because I just was so not connected to who I really am. And that's just my journey. It's no longer my story. I know who I am now. Once I know that, when I find myself being somebody that I don't enjoy being and that I know is not loving to me to be that person, well, then I'm faced with a choice whether I'm going to continue to indulge that emotion that I'm so familiar with, which frankly my body is actually addicted to. It gets addicted to the reaction. It does, Abigail. It gets addicted to the stress hormones. I know I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but this is for people who don't know. Our bodies actually get addicted to the emotions that we want to stop. They do. So you have to know who you want to be. And there is a choice to make about whether we're going to continue to indulge in that yummy, yummy judgment. Oh, that person, they're so awful. Oh, I'm so righteous. They hurt me so much. I'm so good. I didn't, you know, what it... And I've had to make those choices too. So you have to make a choice about who you want to be. And then however you do it, and I'm definitely not talking about that today, you got to step from one side of the river, as Joe Dispenza would say, to the other side of the river. And frequently we don't get to step, we get to get into the river, we have to swim, we have to overcome the current and the logs and the alligators and the whatever else is in there, and we have to cross to the other side through our own resistance, and it's not an instant process. You do it over and over and over and over and over. Why? Because you've got to prune apart all those neural connections you made inside your head about, you know, you thought the thought over and over again, so you kept strengthening the connection, and every time you did that, you conditioned your body chemically to the chemistry of that emotion. We've got to reverse that process. That's why it takes time. That's why the reaction is automatic, and you have to reverse it by practicing being the other self. And that's what I'm so passionate about. And now I'm out of time. So, and I remember at last, because I forget to do this, that if you would like to support me, and I mean by giving me a cup of coffee once a month, literally about that, then please jump on the link that's at the bottom of the words in this post, go to my website and do so. That would be really nice. Andrew, I've just got time to say hello. Good morning, beautiful beings, all of you. I'm so grateful to share with you today. Big love. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.